able to make it through this if that wasn't the case. Oof, whatever nasty kind of flu, I don't even know how to describe it. It was the combination of a normal flu and a stomach flu all rolled into one, and it was not pleasant. I hope none of you guys get it. I ended up getting the symptoms for it Friday morning, as you heard my voice, and then by Saturday morning, it all just went downhill, and I knew I needed to give myself an extra day to kind of get over all of this nastiness. So I'm glad that I'm feeling at least better today. Good to be back with you guys, and good to have my voice back too. So let me get a push alert out really quickly to our News 8 app folks, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started, because it's going to be a pretty busy day across the Quad Cities. I have a feeling we're going to be dealing with a watch eventually at some point this afternoon, and then eventually we're going to be dealing with a slew of warnings, I'm sure, after that. So it's one of those days that you really got to remain weather aware. You know, you've been watching the forecast since probably late last week when we first started talking about this zone, a severe storm zone being put out so far in advance, and the likelihood that it probably would have been bumped up to a 3. Talked about that on Friday, and lo and behold, here we are, bumped up to a 3. So that's where things stand right now. Let's go ahead and we'll get started here. Give me 1 second. All right, get one little sip of some beverage here. All right, awesome. Hat tip to Alec, our digital producer, our executive digital producer. He's going to put out a little push alert for me. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started, because, of course, you can rewind this too. But welcome, everyone. Tuesday morning. It's about 3 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're going to talk about the severe storm threat for today. It's kind of an eerie day, because some of the ingredients, as I've been looking over the model data and all that good stuff, it kind of reminds me of what we saw on the 31st of March, which you remember that last year. That was quite an active day. Now, granted, we're not talking about a level 4 or a level 5 risk for severe weather. Just because we don't have that doesn't mean that we can't see nearly as active as a weather pattern. But certainly I think it's a day that's going to be worth watching as we go into the afternoon. And just replying to this really quick. Okay. That push alert should be coming in just a moment. So right now, it's not been too bad of a morning. It's been pretty mild. It's been a little on the breezy side. That's been the case really the last 24 hours. There you see winds are out of the east right now. So what that tells us is, one, the warm front is still sitting to the south of us. That front still needs to work through, and it will later this morning, likely just before the noon hour. Once that happens, we get into what's called the warm sector. And what that will do is we'll open the door to a very warm and a somewhat humid air mass as we get into this afternoon. That should pop up our temperatures into the 70s. It should also give us more moisture, and you may start to feel a little bit of the humidity. It's not going to be like a true summer day. We don't have the corn or soybean crop coming up out of the ground yet to really make it feel that way. But those are some of the ingredients that we need to get started with the severe weather threat for this afternoon. Now, you're noticing right now on our Bridgepoint camera outside, we don't have any sun. We are socked in the clouds right now. That, of course, will be another factor as we go into our severe weather threat this afternoon. Now, the radar is really quiet. There were some showers just south of Keokuk and Mount Pleasant and Burlington. Those have since fallen apart. Everything else you're seeing in the immediate Quad Cities, all that noise near Kewanee and Princeton, that's what we call ground clutter. The radar beam is kind of refracting into the trees and some of the other higher, taller objects. So no rain there. But let's see what's going on throughout the rest of the region. So one of the things we're going to need later this morning and into the afternoon is we're going to need some sun. The sun will help destabilize things. It will help build in that storm energy. So where is the sun right now? Well, there is some sunshine, as you can see on the visible satellite, which is becoming a little bit more useful now that the sun's been up for a hot minute or two. I'm going to put my pointer on the screen so you guys can see what I'm going to kind of reference here. So right to the south of the warm front, you see the warm front is just south of Quincy right now. This is what's expected to blow on through here in the coming hours. But you notice to the south of the warm front, there's actually quite a considerable amount of clearing that's taking place in central Missouri, eastern Missouri, just to the west of St. Louis. So there's a good chance that this clearing here is going to continue to migrate its way to the north and to the east. And while we're stuck in the clouds now, you notice as this rain band that looked a little more impressive earlier has lifted to the northeast, it's kind of fizzled out. So there's a little bit of drier air, it looks like, working in there. We have an area of high pressure just sitting kind of over Lake Michigan, likely having some influence on that, trying to eat away at some of the cloud cover. So we're expecting some of that clearing to make its way quickly here to the northeast, and that's what will provide the fuel for the energy for this impulse right here. This is the main energy line, if you will, the cold front. Once these storms get into this unstable air, which will build right in here, that's where we expect the severe weather to take off as we go into this afternoon. So we're not expecting anything this morning, but this is going to be an afternoon and evening event. So as we kind of put future track into motion along with the storm energy, which is in that lava color, the brighter the lava color, the more storm energy or storm juice you have to get the severe weather going. So there's the energy at 1 o'clock this afternoon. You notice the warm front is lifting to the north because always south of the front is where your storm energy is going to be. So that warm front is situated roughly just north of the Quad Cities along Highway 30 and right along Interstate 88. Heading into the Sauk Valley. So it's north of I-80 at this point. Storms are starting to develop to the southwest of the Quad Cities, and then those will intensify and move in here sometime after 2 o'clock, the way it looks right now. And this is round number 1 of potentially 2 rounds. So again, kind of watching the timing, this is right around school pickup time for a lot of us. Right now, Future Track is showing a solid line. However, there's likely going to be some embedded, what we call supercell thunderstorms within this batch here. Those are the ones you have to watch for the big hail, the threat of tornadoes as well. There you see more coming through as we go through the 4, 5, 6 o'clock hours. And then there's still some more storm energy left around this evening. You see it right there, that we may build in 1 or 2 storms, especially on the Illinois side of the river, from, say, 7 this evening until 10 o'clock. So our window of opportunity for severe weather today is kind of a wide one. It's from 2 this afternoon until 10 o'clock this evening, but there's a little bit of a break in there, right around sunset between the 2 windows of opportunity. Let's talk about some of the wind dynamics, the upper level winds that are at play today. I like showing this because it explains where the tornado threat's going to come from. So here at the ground level, you've got winds coming one direction out of the southeast, but you go up to 5,000 feet, we're right out of the south. You go to 10,000 feet, we start adding in a westerly component to that, and the wind increases in speed. You see we go from 19 miles an hour here at the ground to nearly 60 miles an hour as you go further up into the atmosphere. So what I tell you to do is you take those arrows, you connect all of them in a line, and you notice you're getting a curving signature with that. And that's where your tornado factor comes into play today. In fact, look at the winds intensifying even more as we go into this afternoon. Very strong wind shear will be present across the region. When we talk about wind shear, we talk about the change in wind direction with height and the change in wind speed with height. Notice you've got both of those on board here for us this afternoon. That's why the tornado threat is there. So let's reiterate where the zones are. This was last updated by the Storm Prediction Center at 8 o'clock. We get another update from them at 11:30 this morning. Sometimes it's a little before, sometimes a little after, depends on who's on the forecast shift there, but not much change. It's still a 3 out of 5 for us here in the Quad Cities for the threat track, which means very likely to see numerous severe thunderstorms as we go into the afternoon. The tornado threat continues to remain concerning because we're talking about this polka dot area. The Storm Prediction Center calls that a hatched area, and anytime they put that out, that is an area that is favorable for seeing a few strong tornadoes. And strong tornadoes meaning tornadoes rated EF2 or higher. Remember, we did see those last year on March 31st with that storm system. Thankfully, we didn't have any deaths with those, but those are the ones that are more likely to produce more significant damage. So if you're in the polka dot zone and you happen to live, say, in a mobile home park or a trailer, prefabricated home, those are not going to be the places to be today. If you can, stay with a relative, a friend, a family member that does have more substantial shelter. Even if it's not with a basement, you're still going to have better luck in a home that is well built versus a prefab or any kind of a mobile home or a trailer park when it comes to dealing with these kind and these strength of tornadoes. There's your hail potential today, 2-inch plus in diameter possible. That's larger than golf ball size, potentially up to baseball size, getting pretty big there. And again, it's another polka dot area meaning that's where we're going to see those larger hail reports essentially concentrated. And again, it does include the Quad Cities. You see with that too. Some of you have asked about the wind today. It's kind of a secondary threat, if you will. We could see gusts surpass 60 miles an hour with some of the strongest storms as we go into this afternoon. Again, there you see the timing is from 2 to 10 o'clock today. 2 waves of this, 1 wave between 2 and let's say 6 o'clock, and then there's another potential second wave coming between 7 and 10 o'clock. That second wave, I think, is going to be more isolated in coverage. I don't expect it to be as widespread as what the first wave will be, but each wave will be capable of producing the same threats. The 3 out of 5 on tornadoes, the 3 out of 5 on hail, and the 2 out of 5 when it comes to the wind threat. There's another glance at future track, and yeah, you can see a real potent couple of lines pushing through here as we go into the afternoon. Looks like most of us are going to be seeing this storm activity. So let's put that into motion. Let's go through future track, and we're going to really slow things down. I like to slow things down because it's just easier to see rather than having the whole radar whoosh across the screen. Let's slow it down so you can actually see what's going on in reference to the clock that's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So here's the noon hour. We're starting to get some development on the Iowa side of the river, southwest of the Quad Cities, but look at the clearing that's come in before that. You see the temperature in Burlington heading up to the mid 70s. We're firmly in the 70s here in the Quad Cities, and that's the storm energy you need to get some of those to really start to intensify. Here's 1 o'clock. That's when we really start to expect some of this activity to really take off and pretty quickly race to the north and east, arriving in the Quad Cities near the 2 and 3 o'clock hour. I think 3 o'clock looks a little more realistic, and then we'll scoot that over to the Illinois side of the river as we had 3, 4, 5 o'clock. But notice we're still getting some development here over the Quad Cities. So this is, again, a very robust system. It's got a lot of lift. It's got a lot of movement with it. And we're still talking storms on a scattered basis even through dinner time. There's 6. Now, where does that secondary line come into play? Our in-house model isn't really grasping it all that well right now. There's another model, the Rapid Refresh model, that's kind of had the right idea on this. And even though our future track doesn't show it, you can kind of see a little resemblance of it here. Now notice what's happening with the temperatures. We've cooled into the low 60s, but once again we're heating up behind the line that we've already had. We've got readings in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees back here, pooling again, maintaining themselves in southeast Iowa. So what may happen is we may get this storm here to start extending itself again, forming another secondary line that will then race through as we head through the evening. So that's the scenario that we don't have a lot of high confidence in. The second line has a lot of low confidence when it comes to if that's going to occur or not. It's a possibility right now, but it's not a guarantee. What is a guarantee is the first line, of course, that'll be coming through as we go into the afternoon. There you see what I mean. You know, Future Track not too excited about that secondary line. Yeah, it blows up a couple of storms into central Illinois that quickly race off to the east, but after that, it really doesn't do all that much with that second little bout of forcing that comes through. A good reminder, if you haven't already, grab the apps, the Storm Track 8 app, the News 8 app. Those have all the push alerts you'll need, watches, warnings, everything, including lightning. I'll tell you, if lightning's near your location, that's handy when I'm out for a walk with the dog. I can't tell you how many times that saved me when that random storm pops up in the summer. Nice to always have a heads up about that. Also, I want to shout out all of our radio partners. We are on all of the iHeartMedia radio stations, and when significant weather is impacting the Quad Cities, they will usually simulcast our on-air coverage, so that's something to keep in mind. We're also on KMAQ in Maquoketa, we're on KROS, and we're also on WRMJ with our forecasts anyway. So multiple ways that you can hear our coverage should we need to go live on the air here this afternoon. I have a feeling we will. And that'll be one of the many ways you can receive that. Now, I know a lot of you, too, say that you have the whole storm anxiety thing. I get it. I understand. One of the things that can help calm your anxiety is knowing that you can put a green check mark next to each one of these things on this list. Knowing that, yes, you have your apps on your phone ready to go with notifications enabled. You know where you're going to seek shelter if a warning is issued for your area. You know how you're going to communicate with friends and family members before, after, and during the storm. And you also know where your first aid kit is or your disaster supply kit, so you're prepared. If you can green check mark all of these things on that list, that should help calm your storm anxiety, because you're prepared, you have a plan, and you're ready to act to protect yourself, your life, and your property, right? Makes a lot of sense. So if you can green check all of those things, you're good to go for this afternoon. If you need to relocate, if you need to get out of that mobile home, if you need to get out of the prefab home that doesn't have a real sturdy structure to it, or perhaps doesn't have a basement or a good interior room, again, a friend, a family member, usually your best course of action. Not a bad idea to just stay with them today if you can. Because again, you're dealing with a threat of a couple of strong tornadoes, especially Quad Cities and points to the west. So to reiterate, 2 to 10 today, that's going to be the time frame to stay on guard for 2 potential waves. One from, say, about 2 to 6, takes a little bit of a break, and then we watch from about 7 to 10 for a secondary round, potentially coming in on the heels of that. Because with the storm energy building back in, that could definitely be something that those second round of storms could utilize. Again, it's not a guarantee. Right now, it's just a possibility with that second round. Not guaranteed. Only 1 or 2 models have been hinting at that, but it is something I want to keep in mind, especially considering we have some storm energy that may be trying to rebuild again after this first round today. In terms of coverage today, the whole team is here. I'll be here with Chief Meteorologist James Zahara in the studio. Meteorologist Morgan Strackbine will be in the Beast. I believe we're going to work in Meteorologist Evan Bunkers in some form or fashion. He is a storm chaser after all, so we got to get him in here as well. Whether it's going to be for some storm chasing, some live hits, or something of the sort, we're definitely going to have him involved as well. So everybody's here. All hands are on deck here, ready to keep you guys safe and ahead of the storms that'll be coming in this evening. Fingers crossed we're not going to have to be talking about any damage or anything like that as we wake up tomorrow morning, but better to be safe than be sorry. We've seen what can happen with these things. Remember, the 31st of March last year, followed by April 4th, very, very active time period. This storm has some similarities, not a ton. It's not an exact match, but the storm does certainly have some ingredients to match the expectations that we saw, especially with the March 31st storm system that rolled through the Quad Cities. So just wanted to put that out there and let folks know kind of what we're going to be dealing with for today. I'm going to head to some of the chats here really quickly while I got a few moments, answer some of your questions, see what we've got in here. Good morning, guys. We'll start with the YouTube first. Alec wondering, what are the chances that the sun comes out to energize these afternoon storms? I think it's pretty good, Alec, and that's a great question. Again, kind of referencing the visible satellite, the true view of the sky, if you will, to show you what's going on. To the south of the warm front, you can see there is some clearing going on. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see this. Well, maybe not. It's probably not going to let me do it. Actually, never mind. I was clicking on the wrong button. There we go. So notice the clouds here, especially as you go southwest of Quincy. They're starting to real thin out. That should allow enough instability to really get things moving in here. In fact, I'm seeing a couple of gravity waves on there too. What I mean by gravity waves, do you see these kind of lines right here? Yeah, they're fairly typical with this kind of a storm system, but what those gravity waves can do is they can actually enhance storm development in addition to the clearing that we're seeing with the instability building right here in parts of northeast Missouri. So great question. Visible satellite showing that taking place, and actually that thinning of the clouds looks like it's also starting to take place right in near Quincy, and it's only a matter of time before that begins to work its way up here into the Quad Cities as we go throughout the morning. Great question, Alec. Mark saying that severe thunderstorm warnings are out for southwest Iowa already. Yes, there are some warnings already out for that line of storms. Those are going to move more off to the northeast, so those, what you're seeing right here, are likely going to stay away, at least from us immediately right now. We're going to be watching for new storm development that will likely take place right in this region down here, again, as we go into the early part of the afternoon. So these right here, those are going to be heading off to the north and to the east. We're going to be watching and focusing on new development that will likely take place right down here. Now, what's interesting is I'm noticing that's a very bright yellow, and what that means is they're tagged that as tornado possible. And that's in southwest Iowa. You see Bedford, Creston, Lenox, that'll all be heading up to near the Des Moines metro. So already things getting cooking on that side of the state. Again, we're going to be waiting for new development here into southeast Iowa as we go into the afternoon. Casey, do the storms a little bit later use enough energy so that they won't be bad this evening? That's what we're going to wait and see. Does that second round of storms between the 7 and 10 o'clock hour use up enough of that energy, or excuse me, the storms that come in before, yes, the 7 and 10 o'clock hour, are those lacking energy because of the storms before them? That's what we kind of have to wait and see. If we can get these afternoon and evening storms out of here, say before 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, there's a good chance that there'll be enough time, if we can get some clearing between 6 and 7, that next round could also be severe in an isolated sense. Bill, the storms this morning, at least as far as I know, have not produced any tornadoes. And let's see, RH is wondering, please explain what it means when it says within 25 or however many miles from a given point. So that question in regard to some of the Storm Prediction Center outlooks. For example, when they place a hatched area, that polka dot area that I showed you for tornadoes, that's the probability of a strong tornado occurring within 25 miles of a point that you place within that polka dot area. Okay, something to kind of keep in mind. I usually don't mention that because it's kind of confusing. I think it's easier to just simply put it on a map and say if you're in that zone, just be aware. Certainly if you're around that zone, you should be, equally as aware. But folks within the zone definitely need to be aware of what is going on in terms of what we've got coming in for this afternoon. You guys had some great questions on YouTube this morning. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Let's hop over to the the Facebook side and see if we have anything going on there. Actually, this is an interesting question, too. What is the better side of a tornado to be on if it's coming out of the west? Which direction should I be facing in your cellar? So with today's storm motions being southwest to northeast, if you're in your basement, you would want to be on the southwest part of your basement. You want to be on the side where the debris essentially cannot be shoved in and piled in your basement. If you're in the southwest side and the tornado's coming this way, all the debris is going to be shoved in this corner of your space. So you want to be on this side. You want to be on the side where the tornado is coming from. You don't want to be on the side where the tornado is coming to. Hopefully that makes sense. That was a great question that came in via Facebook. And a shout out to our other digital producer, Michaela, for sending that my way. That's a great question. You always want to be in the corner where the tornado is coming from, not where it is heading toward. Today that would be the southwest corner based on the motion of the storms here today. Yes, Jenny, I'm going to be here all day. I am going to run home quick after the 11 to let Cooper out. He does need to get a bathroom break at some point, but I'll be rushing right back in after that to be here as long as I'm needed through this evening. The rest of you saying good morning. Laura says you're seeing the sun in the Rock Falls area this morning. Well, there's case in point. We're already starting to see some of those clouds thin out a little bit. And I expect that to continue as we head deeper into the morning and into the early afternoon before those storms begin to arrive here in the Quad Cities. Let's see what other questions I can answer. I'm going to hop over to the main page. Possible power outages? Absolutely, I would plan for those. Again, we're not expecting a derecho or anything like that today, but there will certainly be some power outages where the winds and the hail are the worst, and of course, where we could see an isolated tornado. Aaron is asking about Kelowna, Geneseo area. You are included in everything today. I would prepare for large hail, strong winds, and yes, a tornado too. Joanna can tell a storm is brewing. If you're one of those people that has achy joints with the pressure changes, you can absolutely feel that today. It is one of those days for sure. Linda's asking, is travel safe between 7 and 9 from the QC to Springfield? I would say yes at this point. I think by then storms will be headed off to the east. Lindsay's asking about Roseville. Yep, you are included in that risk for everything today. The time for Peru is a little bit later. I would say after the 4 o'clock hour for Peru. Dante, has some kids walking home from school. If you can meet them at the bus stop or if you can pick them up from school, I think that's your better bet. I would not have them walking home from this in school for today. Quad Cities timing is between 2 this afternoon and roughly about 4 or 5 o'clock this evening, with a secondary one coming in possibly after 7 tonight. It depends on what happens with that first round of storms in terms of what we get later this evening. Katie, for Kiwani, I think the timing for you guys is going to be after the 3 o'clock hour as we get into this afternoon. Monmouth to Roseville, thinking the same thing. It's going to be this afternoon after 2 o'clock or so. The wind, the large hail, the tornadoes, all on the board. Same thing with Abington. All of that is in the cards for you today. Tune back in for us for GMQC at 11. And we'll get another update from the Storm Prediction Center and their thoughts at 11:30. We might get lucky enough to just catch that on the last weather hit of GMQC at 11. So you can join us there. Again, I'll be here the rest of the day with Chief Meteorologist James Zahara. Morgan Strackbine will also be in the Beast for us. Well, we've got coverage all over the place for you guys today, so we're not going to be able to miss a beat. Like always, we'll be on top of things for you, ready to track these storms as they come through. If you don't have the apps, again, go ahead and download those and get them ready. You'll need those, and remain on guard as we go throughout this afternoon. I'll see you guys in about an hour and a half when we get ready for GMQC at 11. Stay safe today, guys.